He swung his fist in the middle of the TSA line. I dodged, and the full-body scanner wailed, but not because of me. When the security officer demanded he remove his belt, something the size of a fingertip tumbled into the plastic bin, a foil-wrapped USB drive, bearing my signature. I no longer had to prove my innocence. That object would confess everything. My name is Harper Lane, and I've spent the last 5 years building a career in compliance risk management at Northline Systems here in Bridgemont, Carolina. The irony wasn't lost on me. I spent my days preventing fraud for others while my own identity was being stolen right under my nose. That Tuesday morning at Bridgemont Metropolitan Airport Authority, I stood in the security line clutching my boarding pass to Charlotte. I needed to file a dispute with Alder and Pike Credit. In-person phone calls and emails had gotten me nowhere. The mortgage applications and car loans in my name were suffocating my credit score, and I was running out of time. "Harper, you're not going anywhere." Dale Mercer's voice cut through the airport chatter like a rusty blade. My stepfather barreled through the crowd, his face flushed with that familiar rage I'd seen too many times. Other travelers stepped back, creating a reluctant arena around us. "This is public property, Dale. You can't—" His hand shot out, grabbing for my carry-on. I pivoted, keeping the bag out of reach, but he lunged forward, his fist connecting with my shoulder. The impact sent me stumbling sideways into the rope barrier. "Ma'am?" "Sir, step back." A TSA officer moved toward us, hand on his radio. Dale spun toward the officer, arms gesticulating wildly. "She's destroying our family, this ungrateful—" The metal detector erupted in a prolonged beep as Dale's movement triggered the sensors. 2 more officers converged on our position. "Sir, you need to remove your belt and empty your pockets," the lead officer commanded, his tone leaving no room for argument. Dale's hands went to his thick leather belt, one of those custom jobs with hidden compartments he'd always been so proud of. As he yanked it free, something small tumbled out and clattered into the gray plastic bin. A USB drive, wrapped in aluminum foil. My breath caught. Even from where I stood, I could see the label through a gap in the foil, HLK Docs. HL, my initials. The second item that fell made my pulse spike, a small brass key, the kind used for safety deposit boxes or storage units. "Sir, these items were concealed in your belt." The officer's voice had shifted from routine to suspicious. Dale's face went from red to white. Those are private property." "Not in an airport security checkpoint. They're not—" The officer picked up the USB with gloved hands. "We'll need to document these items." I stepped forward, my compliance training kicking in. "Officer, I'm Harper Lane. Those are my initials on that drive, but I've never seen it before." The security supervisor arrived, taking in the scene, my disheveled appearance, Dale's aggressive stance, the concealed items. "We'll need statements from both of you. And sir," he looked at Dale, "assault in an airport is a federal offense." Cameras. There were cameras everywhere in airports. Every angle, every moment of Dale's attack and the USB's discovery was being recorded. The realization hit me like cold water. This was evidence. Real, documented, time-stamped evidence. As security led Dale to a detention area, I heard him muttering about family loyalty and ungrateful daughters, but all I could think about was that USB drive with my initials, hidden in his belt like a guilty secret. If that drive contained what I suspected forged signatures, fraudulent documents bearing my name, then Dale had just handed me the very weapon I needed. The seeds of my vindication hadn't been planted by me at all. They'd been carried by him, hidden against his body, waiting for exactly the right moment to fall. The security supervisor approached with an incident report form. "Ms. Lane, we'll need you to provide a full statement. The USB drive and key will be logged as evidence." I nodded, my mind already racing ahead. Chain of custody, documentation, witnesses, everything I'd need for the battles to come. Sometimes revenge doesn't require elaborate schemes. Sometimes your enemy delivers it to your feet, wrapped in foil and labeled with your own initials. 3 weeks before the airport incident, I sat at my kitchen table staring at a credit report that made no sense. a second mortgage on a property I didn't own, a luxury car loan for a vehicle I'd never seen. Both applications bore my signature, except I hadn't signed them. The signature itself was what made me sick. It was close, disturbingly close, but wrong in subtle ways. The H was too looped, the L too angular. It was my signature from years ago, from when I'd first moved to Bridgemont and signed my apartment lease. Someone had practiced with an old version of my handwriting. I called my mother immediately. Linda answered on the third ring, her voice artificially bright. "Harper, honey, how are you?" "Mom, someone's taken out loans in my name. Did you know about this?" The pause stretched too long. "I'm sure it's just a misunderstanding. Banks make mistakes all the time." "This isn't a mistake. Someone forged my signature." "Oh, Harper." Her tone shifted to that familiar dismissive sweetness. "You're always so suspicious. Family needs to trust each other. Dale said you might overreact about some paperwork." Dale said, "What does Dale have to do with my credit?" "Nothing, I just mean, we all need to support each other. He's been having such a hard time with work." I hung up. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from rage. The next morning, I sat across from a loan officer at Alder and Pike Credit. Marcus Whitman was a thin man who kept adjusting his glasses as he reviewed my file. "Ms. Lane, I understand your concern, but these applications have all the proper documentation: Social Security number, employment verification, signature." "That's not my current signature. Look." I signed my name on a blank paper and pushed it across the desk. "Compare them." He held both documents up to the light. "They're similar." "Similar isn't the same. This is fraud." "Without stronger evidence, I'm afraid we can't simply cancel these obligations. You'd need to prove someone else signed these documents." "How am I supposed to prove a negative?" He spread his hands helplessly. "Perhaps you could obtain handwriting analysis, security footage from when the applications were submitted, evidence of where you were on these dates." I left his office with a list of near-impossible requirements and a growing certainty. Dale had been unemployed for 6 months, fired from Brennan Construction for accounting discrepancies. Mom's euphemism for embezzlement. The timing of these loans matched his termination perfectly. That evening, I pulled every document I'd ever signed: lease agreements, tax returns, employee contracts. There it was, my 2018 apartment lease. The signature on the fraudulent loans was an exact match. Someone had kept that document and used it as a template. I started building my timeline. Dale fired in January. First fraudulent loan in February. Second in March. Mom's mysterious home improvements starting in April. Improvements I now suspected were funded by my unwilling credit. My phone buzzed. A text from Linda. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Dale's family now." Family. The word tasted bitter. Family doesn't steal your identity. Family doesn't practice forging your signature like it's a craft project. I opened a new spreadsheet and began documenting everything: dates, amounts, signatures, evidence that I was in my office when the loans were supposedly signed in person, employment records showing Dale's termination, Mom's sudden spending spree. The next credit alert arrived as I worked. Someone had attempted to open a business credit line using my information. The application was pending. This time, I didn't call my mother. I called a lawyer. Identity theft by a family member is more common than you'd think. Patricia Vega from Meriden Vale told me during our consultation. But it's also harder to prosecute. Prosecutors assume family members have access to each other's information. You need ironclad evidence. Ironclad evidence. I thought about Dale's belt with its hidden compartments, his paranoid habit of keeping insurance on everyone. If he'd kept my old lease to forge my signature, what else had he kept? What else was he hiding? The foundation of my case was forming, built on forged signatures and family betrayal. I just needed one piece of physical evidence to tie it all together, one smoking gun that Dale couldn't explain away. I didn't know then that he was carrying it with him everywhere he went, wrapped in foil and labeled with my initials. I found Evan Rhodes working under the hood of a 2015 Camry at his shop on the east side of Bridgemont, My half-brother had inherited our father's mechanical mind and pragmatic nature, everything I needed right now. Harper. He straightened, wiping his hands on a rag. Haven't seen you in what, 2 years? Since Mom's birthday dinner, the one where Dale threw a beer bottle at the wall. Evan's expression darkened. Right. The night I told Mom I was done watching her enable that asshole. He studied my face. What's he done now? I handed him the folder I'd compiled. Fraudulent loans, forged signatures, timeline of Dale's firing and the suspicious applications. Evan flipped through it methodically, his jaw tightening with each page. Jesus, Harper, this is, identity theft, fraud, and Mom's helping him cover it up. He set the folder on his workbench. What do you need from me? Help, information. You worked construction before opening this shop. Did you ever cross paths with Dale's crew? Once or twice. Dale was always running side schemes, inflating materials costs, billing for phantom workers. Evan pulled out his phone, scrolling through old texts. Here, Tom Brennan sent this when Dale got fired. Said they found he'd been funneling money through a shell company, Mercer Trade Co. My pulse quickened. A shell company meant bank accounts, documentation, a paper trail. There's more, Evan continued. Mom called me last month, desperate. Said Dale needed $5,000 for a legal situation. I told her no, but she let slip that she'd already given him access to her retirement account to fix some paperwork problems. She's funding him, using her retirement to pay off whatever mess he's made. I sank onto a stool. While he's destroying my credit. So what's the plan? I need evidence, real, physical evidence. The lawyer says family identity theft is hard to prosecute without concrete proof. Evan was quiet for a moment. You know Dale keeps everything. Man's paranoid as hell, always talking about insurance and covering his ass. I remember. He used to keep receipts from 20 years ago. Not just receipts. When I helped Mom move furniture last year, I saw him carrying boxes to a storage unit. Got defensive when I offered to help. Said it was business documents. A storage unit, with Dale's name on it, requiring a key for access. A key like the one that had fallen from his belt at the airport. We need to be smart about this, I said. Everything legal, everything documented. I won't give him ammunition to use against me. Agreed. But Harper, you know this is going to explode. Right? Mom won't forgive you for going after Dale. She's already chosen him over me. I'm just accepting reality. Evan nodded slowly. Okay, I'm in. But we do this right. What do you need? I pulled out my laptop and opened a new spreadsheet. Information. Every interaction with Dale. Every suspicious transaction. Every document. We build a timeline that's airtight. Over the next 2 hours, Evan provided details I'd missed. Dale's pattern of short-term employment followed by mysterious disagreements. The creditors who'd called the house looking for him under different names. The time Evan had seen a box of blank notary stamps in Dale's truck. Notary stamps. I sat up straighter. Are you sure? Positive. He said he was helping a friend who did mobile notary work, but who keeps a box of stamps. Someone who needs documents notarized without questions. Someone forging loans that require official witnesses. We need to find out which notary sealed these loans, I said. If Dale has a connection there. It's another link in the chain, Evan finished. Harper, be careful. Dale's not violent, but he's cornered. Desperate people do stupid things. I thought about Dale's red face at the airport, his willingness to assault me in front of dozens of witnesses. Evan was wrong. Dale was capable of violence. He just usually aimed it at objects, not people. Usually. I'll be careful, but I'm not backing down. Evan walked me to my car as the sun set over Bridgemont. You know, Dad would be proud of you. Standing up to bullies was his thing. Dad would have handled this differently. Maybe, but he's not here, and you are. Sometimes the responsible one has to be the tough one, too. As I drove home, I thought about the alliance we'd just formed. The responsible daughter and the estranged son, united by necessity against the man who'd invaded our family like a parasite. Dale had spent years creating divisions between us. He hadn't counted on his crimes being the thing that brought us back together. The call came 3 days after the airport incident. Detective Sarah Holbrook from the Bridgemont Police Department's Financial Crimes Unit had a voice that suggested she'd heard every excuse in the book. Ms. Lane, we've completed our initial analysis of the USB drive found on Mr. Mercer. Given that it contained documents with your personal information, you have the right to review the contents with your attorney present. I gripped the phone tighter. What kind of documents? I can't discuss specifics over the phone, but I can say they're relevant to your identity theft complaint. Can you come to the station this afternoon? Patricia Vega met me at the police station, her expression sharpening when she saw my face. They found something significant. Significant enough to call me in. Detective Holbrook was a compact woman with shrewd eyes who led us to a small conference room. A laptop sat on the table, evidence bags beside it. The USB drive was password protected, but our tech team cracked it. Mr. Mercer used his birth date. She opened the laptop. What we found is comprehensive. The first file made my stomach drop. A high-resolution scan of my fraudulent mortgage application. But this version had something the bank's copy didn't metadata, showing it had been created 2 days before the official submission date. He made practice runs, Patricia murmured. Multiple versions, the detective confirmed, clicking through files, each one refining the signature. Here's where it gets interesting. She opened a spreadsheet titled, Commission Split. My name appeared next to dollar amounts that matched the fraudulent loans exactly. Beside each entry were initials DM, LM, PR, Dale Mercer, Linda Mercer, I said slowly. But who's PR? We're working on that, but look at this. She clicked on an image file, a photograph of a notary stamp. The serial number was clearly visible. This matches the stamp used on your loan documents. Another file contained audio. Dale's gravelly voice filled the room. The girl's signature is easy. Got her old lease from when she was 25. Practicing off that. Linda says she won't suspect anything until it's too late. Beauty of family, they trust you until they don't. My hands clenched under the table. Patricia touched my arm lightly. There's more, Detective Holbrook said. We found emails between Dale and someone named Paula Riggs. She runs a mobile notary service. Paula Riggs, PR. The commission split made sense now. The final item is this. She showed a folder labeled Insurance. Inside were dozens of documents, not just mine, but others. Loan applications, signatures, personal information for people I didn't recognize. Mr. Mercer appears to have been running this scheme for years. You weren't the first, Ms. Lane. You were just the first family member. The key that fell from his belt, I said. Have you traced it? Rivergate Box Storage, Unit 47B. It's registered to Mercer Trade Co. We're preparing a warrant, but these documents give us probable cause. Patricia leaned forward. This is exactly what we need. Digital evidence with a clear chain of custody. The metadata alone destroys any claim that Harper authorized these loans. What about my mother, Linda Mercer? Detective Holbrook's expression was carefully neutral. The email suggests she was aware of the scheme and received payments. We'll need to investigate her level of involvement. I felt hollow. Knowing something and seeing proof were different animals entirely. My mother hadn't just turned a blind eye, she'd been paid to do it. Mr. Mercer is currently being held on assault charges from the airport incident, the detective continued. These findings will lead to additional charges, identity theft, fraud, conspiracy. We'll need your full cooperation. You have it, I said. As we left the station, Patricia was already planning. This changes everything. We file for emergency injunctions on all the fraudulent accounts, petition for immediate restoration of your credit, and pursue both criminal and civil charges. What about Dale's storage unit? Let the police handle that. With a warrant, anything they find becomes admissible evidence. Without one, it could jeopardize the case. That night, I sat with Evan and shared what I could legally discuss. His face went through a range of emotions, anger, disgust, and finally, a grim satisfaction. He documented his own crimes, Evan said. The arrogant bastard actually kept records. He thought that USB was his insurance policy. Instead, it's his confession. What about Mom? I showed him the commission split without saying anything. Understanding dawned on his face. She sold you out, literally? For 30%. Apparently, that was my worth to her. Evan's hand found mine across the table. You know this isn't about your worth, right? This is about their greed. I knew he was right, but knowing didn't make it hurt less. The USB had unlocked more than just digital files. It had exposed the ugly mathematics of betrayal, calculated down to the last percentage point. The threatening messages started within hours of Dale's arrest becoming public. My phone buzzed with texts from unknown numbers, then calls from extended family I hadn't heard from in years. How dare you do this to your mother? Aunt Janet's voicemail was shrill. Family doesn't air dirty laundry in public. Dale made some mistakes. But prison, you're heartless. Delete. My cousin Brian. Harper, this is going too far. Can't you just work this out privately? Think about what you're doing to Linda. Delete. The most painful came from my mother herself. Sent at 2 a.m. I never thought I'd raise such a vindictive daughter. Dale loves me, supports me. What have you ever done except judge us? You're destroying our lives over money. I'm ashamed of you. I screenshot everything, forwarding them to Patricia. Document all contact, she'd advised. If they escalate, we'll need restraining orders. The escalation came faster than expected. Harper, Evan's call woke me at 6 a.m. on a Saturday. Don't go to your car. Someone slashed my tires last night. All 4. Did you call the police? On my way to file a report. But Harper, there was a note under the wiper. Family takes care of family. Dale was in custody, which meant someone else, probably one of his construction buddies or my mother's flying monkeys, was doing his dirty work. I installed a doorbell camera that morning and upgraded my apartment's security system. When I finally ventured to my car, I found it untouched but surrounded by scattered nails. A warning. I photographed everything before carefully clearing a path. The hardware store clerk didn't blink when I bought a dash cam, pepper spray, and a steering wheel lock. Apparently, I wasn't the first person preparing for siege warfare in the suburbs. Patricia called that afternoon. The storage unit warrant came through. Detective Holbrook wants you to know they found significant additional evidence. What kind of evidence? Financial records going back 5 years, multiple identity theft victims, and Harper. Your mother's name is all over the documents. She wasn't just taking a cut. She was actively helping him target victims through her job at the medical clinic. My mother had access to patient information, social security numbers, addresses, employment details, the perfect hunting ground for an identity thief. They're issuing a warrant for her arrest, Patricia continued. I wanted you to hear it from me first. I sat down hard on my couch. One thing to know your mother chose money over you. Another to realize she'd done it to dozens of innocent people seeking medical care. That evening, I met Evan at his shop to help with the insurance claim for his tires. He'd installed security cameras and reinforced the locks. You okay? He asked, though we both knew the answer. Mom's getting arrested, probably Monday. He absorbed this quietly. Then, she made her choices. I know, but knowing doesn't make it easier. No, it doesn't. He pulled out his phone. But this might... Remember Tom Brennan from Dale's old company he called today? Wants to provide a statement about Dale's previous schemes. Says he has documentation Dale thought was destroyed. Another thread in the web. Dale had left enemies everywhere. People who'd been waiting for someone else to make the first move. There's something else, Evan said. I drove by the storage facility yesterday. Cops were loading boxes into evidence trucks. Dozens of them. Whatever Dale was hiding, it was big. My phone rang unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Then recognized Detective Holbrook's voice. Ms. Lane, I wanted to give you a heads up. Someone leaked Dale's arrest details to the media. You might have reporters calling. How bad? Local news is running it as family identity theft ring busted. They don't have your name yet. but it's a matter of time. After I hung up, Evan and I sat in silence. The slashed tires, the threats, the public exposure. Dale and my mother were trying to make me back down through intimidation. "You could still walk away," Evan said quietly. "Drop the charges. Let the other victims carry it forward." "Could you, if it was your identity, your future they'd stolen?" "No, but I'm not the one getting threats." I thought about the USB drive, that tiny device that had started this avalanche. Dale had carried my destruction close to his body, protected by leather and foil. Now I was returning the favor, carrying the evidence of his crimes forward despite the cost. "They can threaten all they want," I said, "but they can't unsteal my identity. They can't unforge those documents, and they can't make that USB disappear." Evan squeezed my shoulder. "Then we keep going. But Harper, maybe stay with me for a while. My couch isn't much, but at least I have cameras now." I accepted his offer that night. As I lay on my brother's couch surrounded by the scent of motor oil and the sound of security system beeps, I realized the threats were actually good news. You only try to intimidate someone when you know you're losing. The breakthrough came from the serial number on the notary stamp. Detective Holbrook had traced it to Paula Riggs, who operated a mobile notary service out of a van with magnetic signs that could be removed in seconds. "She's been on our radar," Holbrook explained during our meeting. "Complaints about documents being notarized without the signers present, but we never had solid proof until now." I studied the photos spread across the conference table. Paula Riggs looked unremarkable mid-50s, graying hair, the kind of face you'd forget instantly, perfect for fraud. "The storage unit gave us her payment records," the detective continued. "Cash deposits from Mercer Trade Co. matching the dates of your fraudulent loans. But here's the interesting part." She pulled out a visitor log from Rivergate Box Storage. "She accessed Dale's unit 6 times in the past 3 months. Security footage shows her removing and returning documents." "She was in on it from the start," Patricia said. "Not just a hired stamp, but an active participant." I leaned forward. "Can we trace her other clients if she did this for Dale?" "Already on it. We've identified 17 suspicious notarizations in the past 2 years. Your case broke this wide open, Ms. Lane." Evan had been investigating from another angle. He'd compiled a timeline using social media posts, tagged locations, and public records. The detail was obsessive but brilliant. "Look," he showed me on his laptop. Every time a loan was filed in Harper's name, Dale's phone was pinging at or near the bank. I pulled this from his Facebook. He actually checked in at Alder and Pike Credit the day your mortgage application was submitted. He documented his own movements. Better, his girlfriend did. Shelley Torres, bartender at Rustler's. She tags him in everything. Evan scrolled through posts. "Here's Dale at the bank. Here's him celebrating at a steakhouse that night. Caption says, 'My man closing big deals.'" The irony was breathtaking. Dale's paranoia about keeping evidence had been his downfall, but so had his ego. He couldn't resist having someone document his success. I spent the next week building our timeline with surgical precision. Every forged document matched with Dale's location data from social media, cash withdrawals from my mother's accounts, payments to Paula Riggs, emails between conspirators. The pattern was clear. Dale would forge a document. Linda would provide victim information from the clinic. Paula would notarize it, and they'd split the proceeds, a production line of fraud. Patricia was building the civil case in parallel. "The evidence is overwhelming. We're going to request treble damages plus attorney fees. Between the criminal restitution and civil penalties, Dale and your mother will be paying this back for the rest of their lives." One detail kept nagging at me: the key to the storage unit. Why carry it constantly? Dale could have hidden it anywhere, but he kept it on his body like the USB. The answer came when Detective Holbrook called with an update. "We found something else in the unit: a go bag, cash, fake IDs, and a laptop with cryptocurrency wallets Dale was planning to run." "When?" "Based on the browser history, he'd booked flights for next week. One-way tickets to Belize for him and Linda. My mother, she wasn't just complicit. She was going to flee the country with him, abandon everything including me for a man who'd turned her into a criminal. That evening, Evan and I sat with the full picture laid out before us: bank statements, notary logs, emails, social media posts, storage unit inventory, each piece connected to the next like a puzzle revealing an ugly picture. "You know what the sickest part is?" Evan said. "The commission split shows Mom made less than Dale and Paula. She sold out her patients and her daughter for the smallest cut." I'd noticed that too. 30% while Dale took 50 and Paula 20. My mother had valued herself as much as she'd valued me cheap. "We have everything," I said. "Chain of custody on the USB, timeline of the crimes, financial records, witness statements, even their escape plan. No wonder they're panicking. This isn't just about identity theft anymore. It's conspiracy, fraud, HIPAA violations, attempted flight. They're looking at serious time." The slashed tires and threats seemed almost quaint now. Dale and Linda had played their intimidation card because it was the only one left in their deck. But you can't threaten away a USB drive already in evidence. You can't slash the tires of a digital trail. Paula Riggs was arrested the next morning at a truck stop, her van full of blank notary stamps and pre-signed documents. She folded immediately, confirming every detail of the scheme in exchange for a plea deal. The house of cards wasn't just falling, it was being methodically demolished, one evidence-backed brick at a time. The Carolina North District Courthouse stood like a fortress of gray stone and expectation. 6 months after the airport incident, everything had led to this moment. I sat between Patricia and Evan, watching the courtroom fill with victims, investigators, and media. Dale entered in an orange jumpsuit, his swagger replaced by shackles. My mother followed, dressed in black as if attending a funeral. Perhaps she was. When her eyes found mine, I saw no remorse, only resentment. Judge Catherine Brennan called the consolidated hearing to order. Criminal charges and civil claims would be addressed together, given the interconnected nature of the crimes. The prosecution began with the airport footage. The massive screen showed Dale swinging at me, the USB tumbling from his belt, timestamps, multiple angles, security officers responding, the foundation of everything that followed. This device, the prosecutor held up the evidence bag, contained comprehensive documentation of a 3-year identity theft ring. They played Dale's recorded voice. "The girl's signature is easy. Got her old lease from when she was 25. Practicing off that." I watched the jury's faces harden. Dale's attorney objected, overruled. The evidence was legally obtained, chain of custody intact. Detective Holbrook took the stand, methodically presenting the digital evidence. Forged signatures appeared side by side with originals. The commission spreadsheet filled the screen. LM, PR next to dollar amounts. She explained how metadata proved the forgeries were created before the official loan applications. Objection, Dale's lawyer stood. Speculation about the meaning of initials. Sustained, but the witness may continue with factual evidence. Holbrook pulled up the emails, not initials now, but full names: Dale Mercer, Linda Mercer, Paula Riggs, planning their crimes in writing, confident in their family bond of silence. The storage unit inventory came next. 17 boxes of evidence. Photos showed the go bag with cash and fake IDs, the laptop with cryptocurrency wallets, flight reservations to Belize. The defendants weren't just stealing identities, Holbrook concluded. They were preparing to flee with the proceeds. Marcus Whitman from Alder and Pike. Credit testified about the loan applications. He brought the originals, handling them like toxic waste. Ms. Lane provided her current signature for comparison. The forensic analyst confirmed the applications used a signature from 2018, not her current writing. The bank's security footage played next. Dale at the counter, submitting applications. The same day he'd checked in on Facebook, celebrating his big deal. Paula Riggs took the stand as part of her plea agreement. Her testimony was devastating. She detailed the payment structure, the process of fake notarizations, the number of victims beyond me. She identified the stamp serial number, confirmed the cash payments, named Dale as the ringleader and Linda as the information source. "Ms. Riggs," the prosecutor asked, "did Linda Mercer know these were fraudulent documents?" She provided the victim information from her clinic job. She knew. When Linda's attorney cross-examined, trying to paint Paula as unreliable, she produced receipts, literally. Cash deposit slips with memo lines reading LM Commission. Linda had insisted on documentation for tax purposes. Her greed had created a paper trail. My turn came after lunch. Patricia had prepared me well. I testified about discovering the fraudulent loans, my mother's deflection, the threats after filing charges. I kept my voice steady, focusing on facts. "Ms. Lane," the prosecutor asked, "what was the impact on your life?" Beyond the financial damage, I couldn't qualify for an apartment lease. My professional reputation as a compliance officer was threatened. I lived in fear after the threats began. Dale's attorney tried to paint me as vindictive. "Isn't it true you've been estranged from your mother?" "We had a normal relationship until I discovered she'd sold my identity for money." Objection. Sustained. Rephrase. "We had a normal relationship until these events." The defense's case was thin. Dale's lawyer argued entrapment, claiming I'd planted the USB. The airport footage destroyed that theory. Security cameras showed Dale entering with the belt. No interaction with me beforehand. Linda's attorney played the family card. She trusted her husband. She didn't know what the documents were for. But the emails were clear. Linda discussing target selection from clinic patients, calculating her percentage, warning Dale to be careful with Harper's signature. The most damaging evidence came last. The prosecution showed Linda's work computer search history, subpoenaed from the clinic, searches for identity theft penalties, statute of limitations fraud, countries without extradition treaties. She'd known, she'd worried, she'd planned to run. Closing arguments were swift. The evidence spoke louder than any rhetoric. Forged signatures, hidden USB drives, storage units full of proof, recorded confessions, financial trails, failed escape plans. The jury deliberated for 2 hours, guilty on all counts: identity theft, fraud, conspiracy, attempted flight. Dale faced 15 years, Linda, 10, restitution to all victims, assets seized, professional licenses revoked. But the judge wasn't finished. She granted our civil claims, ordering treble damages plus attorney fees. The house Dale and Linda shared, purchased with stolen funds, would be liquidated. Their bank accounts, frozen since arrest, would compensate victims. "The betrayal of family trust," Judge Brennan stated, "is an aggravating factor. Ms. Lane deserved protection from her parents, not predation." As marshals led them away, Dale finally looked at me. No apology, just rage at being caught. Linda didn't look at all. Outside the courthouse, reporters waited. I gave a brief statement about identity theft awareness, then walked away. This wasn't about publicity, it was about justice. The gavel fell like thunder. 15 years for Dale, 10 for Linda. The word guilty echoed in the courtroom, but I felt no celebration, only the hollow sensation of necessary endings. Patricia squeezed my hand as we gathered our documents. "Full restitution. Harper, your credit will be restored within 30 days. The liens are lifted. You won." Won. Such a simple word for such a complex outcome. I'd won back my identity, my financial future, my truth. But I'd lost a mother. Or perhaps finally acknowledged she'd been lost long ago. Outside the courthouse, Evan waited by his truck. We stood together in the North Carolina sunshine, watching news vans pack up their equipment. The story was over for them, for us. The aftermath was just beginning. "You did it," he said simply. "We did it. I couldn't have survived this without you." "Sure you could have. You're tougher than you think, Harper. Always have been." 3 weeks later, I received the first restitution check. Seeing my name on a check that was actually mine felt like a small miracle. The credit bureaus had expunged the fraudulent accounts. My score, while not perfect, was climbing. But the real vindication came in smaller moments, qualifying for my own apartment lease without co-signers or explanations, opening a piece of mail without dread, answering unknown calls without fear. I kept the USB drive, or rather, a photo of it. Patricia had it framed with a small placard, Evidence Number 1. It sat on my desk at Northline Systems, where I'd been promoted to Senior Compliance Manager. Turns out, surviving identity theft made me an expert in preventing it. The storage unit key became a paperweight, a reminder that secrets have weight. Dale had carried his crimes close, thinking proximity meant control. Instead, it became proof that gravity always wins. What you carry will eventually fall. Some nights, I wondered about my mother. Was she adapting to prison? Did she think about her choices? But those wonderings grew shorter, less sharp. She'd made her decisions with full knowledge and a calculator. I owed her nothing, not even my guilt. Evan and I met for dinner every Sunday now. We'd rebuilt our relationship on the foundation of shared truth, stronger for having weathered the storm together. He never asked if I regretted anything. He knew better. 6 months after the trial, I received a letter forwarded through Patricia's office, Linda's handwriting, asking for forgiveness, blaming Dale's influence, claiming maternal love. I read it once, then filed it with the court documents. Some stories don't deserve sequels. The scar on my shoulder from Dale's airport assault had faded to a thin line, barely visible, but there if you knew where to look. Like all of this, really, the wounds had healed, leaving marks that reminded me of my strength, not my suffering. I returned to Bridgemont Metropolitan Airport last week, flying to Charlotte for a finance conference. Walking through the same security checkpoint, I felt no anxiety. The TSA officers were different, the routine unchanged. No one threw punches, no USB drives fell from hidden compartments. Just ordinary people going ordinary places, carrying nothing more dangerous than oversized shampoo bottles. At the conference, I presented a workshop on identity theft prevention in the workplace. The room was packed. I started with a simple truth. The most dangerous threats often come from those we trust most. I told them about signature verification, document security, the importance of monitoring credit reports. I didn't tell them about mothers who sell their daughters' futures for 30% commission. Some lessons are too personal for PowerPoints. But I did tell them this revenge isn't always about destruction. Sometimes it's about reconstruction, building something better from the pieces they tried to steal, creating a future they can't touch from a past they tried to corrupt. The USB drive that fell in airport security hadn't contained my destruction after all. It had contained my liberation, wrapped in foil and labeled with my own initials. Dale thought he was carrying my identity. Instead, he'd been carrying evidence of his own downfall. Sometimes, the best revenge is simply letting someone's choices find their consequences. Gravity does the rest. What goes up or gets hidden in belts must eventually fall, and when it does, make sure you're standing clear, with good lawyers and better documentation. My name is Harper Lane. My identity is my own. And this is where my story ends, not with rage or regret, but with the quiet satisfaction of accounts balanced and futures reclaimed. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment below, and let's connect and share our thoughts. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. And if you really want to help more people discover this story, hit that hype button to boost this video's reach. Your support means everything.